Your family has a version of you trapped in the past, and their low expectations are acting as an invisible anchor. They expect you to fail because it justifies their own stagnation, but their doubt is not your destiny. It is time to stop apologizing for outgrowing the cycle of recidivism. Welcome back to the Conviction Fiction Podcast, where we challenge the stories that keep people in prison long after the physical sentence has ended. I'm your host, Antoine Rivers, and today we are talking about a shadow that follows many of us after incarceration. I know we talk about ghosts, and now we got shadows, right? It does not always come from a probation officer, an employer, a background check, or a stranger who has already made up their mind about us. Sometimes the shadow comes from home. Sometimes the people who remember your worst decisions have difficulty accepting your transformation. They may say they love you, they may claim they want the best for you, but every time you attempt to rise, they remind you of who you used to be. They bring up the arrest, they bring up the sentence, they bring up maybe the addiction, they bring up the failed relationships, they bring up the money you lost, the promises you broke, the time you wasted, and the people you disappointed. Even after you've started rebuilding, they continue speaking to the version of you who no longer exists. That is what I call the shadow of recidivism. It is the expectation that because you failed before, you will eventually fall again. It is the belief that your progress is temporary, your discipline is just an act that you put on, and that your transformation has an expiration date. And when those expectations come from your own family, they can become more dangerous than open rejection from strangers. A stranger's opinion may just irritate you, but a family member's opinion can enter into your identity. So today we are breaking that attachment. This episode is not about hating your family. It's not about blaming everybody around you for your decisions. It is not about avoiding accountability. It is about recognizing that you cannot build a new life while continuing to live beneath expectations created by your old one. Let's get into it. Every family has a script. Some families pass down education, property, emotional stability, healthy communication, financial literacy, and even opportunity. Other families pass down silence, addiction. They pass down incarceration, abandonment, violence, poverty, unresolved grief, and low expectations. Now, most families pass down a mixture of both of those things. This generational script is the collection of spoken and unspoken beliefs that tell family members who they are allowed to become. The script might sound like, well, people like us never get ahead, or everybody in this family has been to jail, or men in this family do not stay, or women in this family always have to struggle. Nobody's going to give you a real opportunity. Now, these statements do more than describe the past. They quietly attempt to predict the future. When you hear them repeatedly, they can become internal instructions. You may consciously want success while subconsciously remaining loyal to failure. That may sound strange, but belonging is one of the strongest human needs. We talked about that in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to have a sense of belonging. We want to feel connected to our families, communities, and familiar environments. Even when those environments are unhealthy, they are still familiar. And familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar progress. You may begin improving your life, but another part of you worries that success will separate you from the people you love. Maybe you start a business and somebody says you are acting differently, or you begin speaking professionally and somebody accuses you of being fake. Maybe you just stop participating in destructive behavior and people say you have forgotten where you came from. You begin, I don't know, protecting your time, right? You set up healthy boundaries for your time, and then relatives call you selfish. Or with those boundaries, they call you disrespectful. Um, you can begin all this healing, and still your family can treat you or treat your healing like it's a betrayal. And that pressure can cause you to sabotage yourself, not because you truly want to fail, but because failure allows you to remain emotionally connected to the group. Now, success has always changed relationships. Growth changes conversation. Discipline, it will change access. And when you change, the family system must either adjust to the new version of you or attempt to drag you back into your previous role. Now, there's a psychological cost to shrinking yourself so that other people can remain comfortable. Every time you pretend not to know what you know, you weaken your confidence. Or every time you laugh at disrespect to avoid conflict, you teach yourself that boundaries do not matter. Um, every time you abandon a goal because your family does not quite understand it, then you reinforce the belief that their approval is more important than your development. So you got to be careful when you are dealing with family and success, because staying small may preserve a relationship, but it also destroys slowly the relationship with yourself. So you begin resenting yourself. You start resenting the very people you're trying to please. You become frustrated because you know you are capable of more, but you don't do it. You start feeling guilty when you succeed and ashamed when you fail. You can then find yourself living between two identities: the person you are becoming and the person your family expects you to remain. Now, that internal conflict is exhausting. Trust me, I know. You cannot maintain long term freedom while constantly negotiating with people who are emotionally invested in your old identity. Now, human beings are wired to notice when we are separating from the group. Historically, being removed from the tribe could mean losing protection, food, shelter, and survival. And that ancient instinct still exists. Today, leaving the tribe may not mean being physically abandoned in the wilderness, but it may mean being excluded from family gatherings, criticized in group chats, or mocked behind your back, or treated like an outsider. That can create real emotional pain. But the urge to remain connected becomes dangerous when the tribe's standards are actually destructive. Belonging should not require self destruction. Loyalty should not require relapse. A family connection should not require you to abandon your discipline, your peace, sobriety, ambition, or your freedom. You can love people without repeating their patterns. You can respect where you came from without returning to the conditions that nearly destroyed you. You can also appreciate your family while refusing to inherit every limitation that they accept. Now, low expectations are not always communicated through direct insults. Sometimes they arrive disguised as humor. We're just going to laugh it off. Sometimes they arrive as concern, like, I'm really concerned about you. All of this stuff you got going on. Sometimes they arrive at backhanded compliments. You're doing good for somebody with your background. You're doing good for somebody that just got out of prison. Let's see how long this lasts. Or you've changed. You think you're too good for us now. I remember when you could not even keep a job. Look at you now. These comments may seem small, but repeated exposure can slowly erode your confidence. They are verbal invitations to return to your old role. The family may have known you as the irresponsible one, the angry one, or maybe the addicted one, the one that got locked up, the unreliable one, or the one who always needed help. When you stop performing that role, the system becomes uncomfortable. Some people will celebrate your growth. Others will search for evidence that it is not real. Now, transformation is not only mental, it is also environmental. Certain places, people, conversations, songs, phone calls, even family gatherings, they can activate an earlier version of you. You may have been calm for months, but for 5 minutes around a particular relative, that can make you feel like an angry teenager again. You may have developed confidence professionally, but one family member's comment can make you question your entire future. And for that person, that would be my mom. Um, I have established sobriety, but returning to an old neighborhood can possibly awaken cravings that I thought were gone. So even though you may have learned healthy communication, entering the family home can cause you to become defensive before anyone has even said a word. And those are proximity triggers. Your nervous system remembers environments where you once had to survive. That does not mean you're weak. It means that you must become intentional. You got to ask yourself, like, what brings out my most disciplined self? Who brings out my most defensive self? Which conversations leave me focused and which ones leave me emotionally exhausted, right? Who benefits when I doubt myself? And when you think about it, you cannot manage what you refuse to identify. So you need to know. An audit is not an accusation. It is an honest examination of what repeatedly affects your thinking and your behavior. Now, not every, and I'm gonna say this like in the kindest way, not every difficult conversation is toxic. Not every warning is an attempt to control you. Sometimes family members see things you do not see. I mean, genuine support may include correction or accountability or some uncomfortable truths. But the question is not simply whether somebody disagrees with you. The question is what their disagreement produces, right? Now, genuine support says, I believe in your growth, but I want you to think carefully. Um, or I'm proud of your progress. Let's make sure this decision supports your future. Um, but you know, some people don't hold it accountable like that. You know what I'm saying? They'll hold you accountable because they know what you're capable of. But the crab mentality, no disrespect, but you know that you will never change. Um, who do you think you are now? You're gonna fail anyway. Why are you trying so hard? Come on, one time won't hurt. Come on and try this. You were more fun, but you before you started acting differently. Now, support challenges your behavior while respecting your potential. Now, this other mentality, all right, this pull you down mentality attacks your potential because your growth makes other people feel uncomfortable. You got to learn the difference. You can't reject every correction because you are trying to protect your ego, but do not accept every criticism simply because it comes from someone who shares your blood. I'm gonna share something personal right now with me. I mean, when I came out with my first book, right? The first book I wrote, I spent a lot of time on it. It was basically like a clear the air type of book. Like I'm just gonna tell you my story, not blaming anyone. Going to give big shout outs to my family, my mom, my dad, for those people that shaped me. It was one of them type of memoirs. And so I gave it to, it sometimes tears me up, man, but I gave it to my mom. And for whatever reason, bro, like, I think I was trying to help a cousin that was not necessarily, down on his luck. But I was just trying to, help him out, provide him, help him with place to stay, help him start getting some of his legal stuff straightened out. My mom heard about it. And something she was like, "You gonna go back to prison. You finna go back here." Not knowing what the positive stuff that this person got going on and not understanding fully that I built too much to let some one individual like tell what I got down. So not understanding that, I took the book over there And she told me she gonna throw it in the trash. I was like, why you throwing it in the trash? It's like, that's where trash belongs. You should have been thrown in the trash. And it hurt me deeply. It broke me down. And it still bothers me to this day. Um, Now, family members can love you and still be wrong about you, right? They can care about you and still project their fear onto your future. They can remember your history without having the authority to define your destiny. Now, so at some point, I had to divorce myself from the identity my mom assigned to me. This don't mean that, I ended the relationship. It means that I ended the emotional dependence on her interpretation of me, right? And identity divorce is the deliberate separation between who you were required to be in an unhealthy system and who you have chosen to become. And the reason why it was so difficult for me because I didn't conform to this identity, because I didn't, um, um, you know, lower my standards. Because of this, um, I was told like I don't appreciate anything. Like, I didn't appreciate coming to visit me while I was down. I didn't appreciate, taking care of my kids while I was locked up. I didn't appreciate none of that. All because of a decision I made. Like I supposed to went back to that box, right? So I had to divorce myself from that label, from the disappointment, the shame, the predictions, the family role. I had to divorce myself that, the expectation or the belief that my past must remain my permanent address, right? Just because I went through that and I don't conform, then hey, they ain't even want to talk to me no more. Right? Don't even care, you know what I'm saying? And then now, like, I'm left feeling guilty because these are the people that supported me and supported me then, like when I was down. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be strategic with it, man. There may be a period when you need like strategic distance, not revenge, no dramatic announcement, no public arguments, just distance. Just separate yourself from that. Strategic detachment may mean answering fewer phone calls, making fewer phone calls. It may mean leaving early. It may mean deleting a group chat. It may mean refusing to discuss your goals with people who consistently ridicule or downplay them. Might mean spending holidays different. Like returning, not even going to the neighborhood every weekend, or allowing certain relatives to misunderstand you. Now, the last one is difficult, right? Many people remain trapped because they are determined to make everybody understand their decisions. And I got into that um, with my own folks, right? I was trying to explain the boundary. I was trying to explain my schedule, why I stopped doing this, why I cannot lend money, why I'm so focused on work. I had to explain why I'm no longer participating in certain conversations. And some people are not confused, but they simply don't agree with the version of you that no longer serves them. Stop exhausting yourself trying to gain approval from people who are committed to misunderstanding your growth. Strategic detachment gives you new identity. It gives you room to breathe. A seed cannot grow if it's constantly removed from the soil, so everyone can inspect its progress. Some development must happen privately. Now, my family may describe me according to inherited traits and old mistakes. They might describe right now, I would not doubt it, right? But I had to begin defining myself through current evidence. I don't say I'm trying to become responsible. I don't say that. I say I have arrived. You hear me? I have arrived at work on time for the last 14 years. I don't say I hope I can stay sober. I say I have completed, you know, what is it, 2 years of sobriety. You know, I've been in means and removed access to the environments that trigger me. So identity becomes stronger when it is supported by evidence. Now, your past may contain evidence of who you were, but your present must contain evidence of who you are becoming. Keep a record of your progress, document it, track your consistency, write down milestones, save certificates, right? Not because you need to prove yourself to everybody else, but because there will be days when the old voices become loud. And on those days, you need evidence to go back on so you can deal and see what you've done. Now, many families are not intentionally trying to destroy your progress. They just operate through unresolved trauma themselves. Y'all don't hear me right there. They might be working through unresolved trauma themselves. They may fear abandonment. They may interpret your boundaries as rejection. They may feel threatened. Hear me out. They may feel threatened by your confidence because nobody taught them how to develop their own. They may resent your healing because it exposes the pain they have avoided. Understanding that can create compassion, but compassion does not require unlimited access. You can understand why someone behaves a certain way and still refuse to be harmed by that behavior. A boundary is not a punishment. A boundary is a condition for continued access. It may sound like, hey, I ain't discussing my past every time we disagree. I am not going to sit here and discuss my past every time we disagree. Right? And if the conversation becomes disrespectful, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. You know? Or I'm not discussing my personal relationship with the entire family. I ain't discussing my marriage with the entire family. Right? And I'm not going to allow you to insult me and then call it a joke because I love you, but I will not participate in that type of behavior. Boundaries must be clear, calm, and consistent. A boundary without reinforcement is just a suggestion. You don't need to scream. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to prove that you are stronger, right? Basically, you just got to break the generational cycle. And that requires more than emotional motivation. It requires standards. Feelings change, standards remain. There will be days when you feel powerful and focused. There'll also be days when you feel lonely, guilty, angry, rejected, or exhausted. If your decisions are controlled by your emotional state, those difficult days can pull you back into familiar behavior. You need a logic-based framework. Before making a decision, just ask yourself, does this support the life that I'm building? Does this protect my freedom? Does this improve my financial stability or strengthen or weaken my discipline? Logic does not mean ignoring emotion. It means refusing to let temporary emotions create permanent consequences. Now, your routine can become a physical barrier between you and your old habits. Now, a structured day leaves less room for impulsive decisions. You don't need an unrealistic schedule. You just need something repeatable, something you can do every day. You don't wake up at the same time, make your bed up, review your product, all that stuff you learned in prison, you know, make your bed up, review your priorities, exercise, go to work, study, go to a recovery meeting, eat, track how you spend your money, limit unnecessary social media or interactions, read, reflect, go to sleep at a reasonable hour. All the stuff you learned in prison, they may seem ordinary to you, but freedom is often protected through ordinary discipline. Recidivism does not always begin with a new crime. Sometimes it begins with disorder. You stop waking up on time. You stop going to work every day. You know, you start drinking or using. You start lying about small stuff. start getting angry at everybody. Then when the crisis arrives, everybody says it happens suddenly. It rarely happens suddenly. It happens through a series of small permissions. And I say permissions because you allow, you get off your square. You start doing outside of the box. Now, high performance routine closes the door on that because you're able to structure your life. Now, you may not be able to change your family, but you can change who influences your daily thinking. You need people who reflect the future you are building, like mentors or business owners, faith leaders, counselors, coaches, former incarcerated leaders who have built stable lives, right? These folks should make you better. They should make you tell the truth, challenge those excuses, respect your boundaries. They're going to respect your boundaries. They ain't going to be like them other folks that don't even really care because they're familiar or they think they know. They should model consistency. Your environment teaches you what is normal. If everyone around you avoids responsibility, responsibility will feel unusual or weird. If everyone around you values discipline, discipline will become the expectation. You don't have to have a large circle. You just need one that's lined up. 3 committed people can become more valuable than 30 familiar people who keep pulling you backwards. All you need is 3. Now, I had to learn to break free from low expectations. And it wasn't a single decision. It was a long-term, it's still long-term practice for me, because at first I was energized about it. I created some boundaries. I changed my routine. I distanced myself from destructive behavior. And then I started achieving stuff. And then something strange happened. Guilt started happening. I started feeling bad because my life was improving while the people I love, like my brother, they remained stuck. And I wondered if I had abandoned them, right? I wonder whether maybe I should give them some money, or should I lower my standards so they will feel comfortable around you? I don't want to go around and talking about like, yeah, I just got out of business meeting with the owners of Whoop Company, and they, asking me to buy food stamps from. You know what I'm saying? So I started wondering if success had made me selfish. And it was, I guess, a survivor's guilt inside the family system. I survived the environment. I broke the pattern. I found a different path. But now I started feeling guilty for escaping what others were still experiencing. But returning to dysfunction will not rescue anybody, y'all. They ain't gonna rescue nobody. Destroying your progress will not heal your family. Making yourself smaller will not make them appear to be larger or equal. You can be generous without becoming unstable. You can share your resources, your network without becoming an endless emergency fund. Right? Your growth may eventually become proof that another path is possible. But like they always say, you cannot force people to follow that. But they say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You don't permanently destroy old labels through arguments. Let your life become the announcement. Keep showing up, keep working, keep learning, keep apologizing when you're wrong, right? Keep choosing discipline when nobody's watching. The goal is not to convince everybody that the old version of you is dead. The goal is to stop resurrecting that version whenever somebody mentions your past. Every family cycle continues until somebody decides that inherited pain will no longer control the future. Somebody has to be the first person to say, like, hey, getting locked up ends with me. Addiction ends with me. Abandonment, violence, all that ends with me. Low expectations, that ends with me, right? That person may not receive applause. That person may be understood. They may be criticized. They may be accused of changing. And the truth is, they did change. That's the entire point. You are not here to preserve every behavior that made your family familiar. You are here to preserve what is healthy, confront what is destructive, and build what did not previously exist. You may be the first person in your family to create emotional stability. The first to stay free, to build a business, or graduate, or attend therapy, or have a healthy marriage. Being the first can feel lonely, but generations may never, ever benefit from the decisions you make today if you don't change your life. Before we close, man, I want you to complete the honest personal audit. Write down answers to these questions if you can. This will definitely help change your life, and look forward to TCF curriculum. I have the Conviction Fiction Learn program that will be dropping, I want to say Q3. Hopefully that will be up and running. Just trying to get some, you know, clearance for a lot of the teachings that I've learned that I want to pass along. But you can write down the answer to this. What role did your family assign to you? And if so, what destructive behaviors have you maintained to preserve a sense of belonging? Just think about that for a minute, right? Do not rush through the questions. I'll post the complete list in the podcast description. Your honesty may reveal that some of your greatest limitations are no longer external. They may have opened the prison door for you. The sentence may be finished, but the supervision is not over. You may be still living according to an identity created during the worst season of your life. Now, Conviction Collective, your family's expectations are not your prophecy. The fears, not your future. You're allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that kept everybody else comfortable. You're allowed to become disciplined. You're allowed to build relationships based on respect instead of obligation. The shadow of recidivism survives by convincing you that failure is your natural destination. But freedom is more fun, and it is more than remaining outside of prison. It's refusing to return mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and behaviorally to the identity that once kept you confined. Your family may continue expecting the old version of you. Let them wait on it. You have work to do. Build so consistently that your future becomes louder than their doubt, right? And become the ancestor who finally said, the cycle stops with me. Not next year, not when everybody understands, not when your family approves. It stops today. This has been the Conviction Fiction. I am your host, Antoine Rivers. To the Conviction Collective, keep doing the work. Keep protecting your freedom and keep changing the narrative of life after lockup. Don't forget to go over to our website at theconvictionfictionpodcast.com. It has a new look, a new feel. You can pick up one of the books or some of that wonderful messaging merchandise over there. Your past may explain you guys, but it does not have to define you. Until next time, stay free in your body and your decisions, and most importantly, in your mind.